Hey everybody, here's the big one. The Amazing Fantasy 15 Pedigree copies video. So I'm going to go through, I keep this list of the existence of grades of Silver Age key books from the major Pedigree collections. Here it is on your screen. And I track a bunch of books. I track a bunch of pedigrees, and I see, which pedigree has which books, lists the grade, and what have you. So this is one of the deep dive videos that I'm doing for each key to talk about which pedigrees it's in, when it's sold, look at graders' notes, that sort of thing. So let's get started. We'll do an overview quickly of Amazing Fantasy 15. So this is the current published list. As you'll see in a minute, there's a missing data point in the published list. I have to update the data. But let's start. So Amazing Fantasy 15, there's a Big Apple copy, which is fine, very fine, not CGC graded that I know of. There is a Bethlehem copy, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Curator copy is a CGC 9.0. Regular viewers of the channel will have seen me talk about that book before. And then we skip over, there's an Ohio copy, an 8.5, Pacific Coast 6.5, which is like one of the lower graded keys from the Pacific Coast pedigree, which is a bummer because, of course, it's the most valuable. Suscha News 3.0, Twin Cities 6.0, and then White Mountain, famous book, 9.4. So let's quickly take a look at the census. Here's the census. There are 2,813 unrestored copies. For comparison's sake, for the kind of top end of the hobby, there are 37 unrestored Detective 27s. So there are a lot more Amazing Fantasy 15s. In fact, there are more Amazing Fantasy 15s in 8.5 or better than total Detective Comics 27. Now, that said, that's the power of Spider-Man. I mean, people love Batman. Detective Comics 27 is insane, but people love this book. So that's why it's sold for millions of dollars on more than one occasion. So first up is the Amazing Fantasy 15 Big Apple copy, listed as fine, very fine. This is like one of those things that's almost impossible to Google, since there are all kinds of comic-related things called, quote, Big Apple, forget it. You can't actually find this. I was able to find it in the 1996 Christie's catalog. So they cropped, I talked about it yesterday, they crop these scans photos so tight to the book that you can't see anything. And it's really tiny, but you can't possibly see any damage to the spine, even with a magnifying glass, because it looks like a mint book. It looks perfectly square or perfectly rectangle. So, it's really tiny. I had to really zoom in to just get this image for you all. But even at this point, this was like an expensive book. It was almost a 4-figure book. It was a high four-figure book, almost a 5-figure book. And, you would think that they would, give you a little bit better view, but they really didn't. I didn't put a magnifying glass to kind of look and see if you could see any identifying, damage or errors or chips or anything like that. But you could barely see anything. So I probably didn't miss anything. Here's the original listing. So as you can see, the estimate was $7,000 to $9,000. One of the many projects I have on the back burner. I keep saying it. The channel gets big enough, I will hire somebody to do research for me. So like and subscribe, share with your friends, all that stuff. Thanks. No, but really, I would love to get somebody that could do research for me, maybe 20 hours a week, because it would unlock a lot of stuff that I just can't do. And this is one of them, right? I would like to source, so it's a little bit of legwork. It's sourcing all of the sales results for these paper catalogs from Christie's and Sotheby's. So if you buy them on eBay, which I had to buy some of them on eBay, oftentimes you'll get a registered bidder will get a fax, or like they'll mail them a list of the results for each of the listings. And so I have some of them. I don't have them all. I've gotten a lead that there are some on the CGC forums. I'm going to look and see if I can get them. But then there's you actually would have to sit down and figure out, every lot, list the lot, list what it is, list the price, and put it into a CSV so that people could use it. So it would actually take a while, but it would be incredibly valuable because a lot of information about these 90s sales, which were very important in the modernization of the hobby, and led to places like Heritage being able to have a 25-year run selling multi-million-dollar comics. We just don't have the information readily available. It's available, but it's kind of locked away, and I think it would be great to be able to share it in a more easily usable format, much like I did with the Edgar Church, the original Edgar Church catalog, and then the research that people have done on all of the CGC graded books. So it's a long digression, but I mean, I would love to do it because I don't know what this sold for, and I don't have the sales results for this catalog. So I'd have to find that and then put two and two together, and it's it's something I'd love to do. So as the channel grows, hopefully I'll get to be able to do some of these things. It'd be a lot of fun. So moving on. So like I said, I just discovered I've been buying some comic book marketplaces because there's really interesting information in them that come pretty cheaply. I'm going to try and put together a run. And as I kind of I haven't done a deep dive into any of them yet. You really need to, because you need to look at the ads and things like that, because somebody could have a Pedigree book in one of the ads or a high grade copy in one of the ads. I haven't done that yet. But I just was, flipping through a couple that I just got. And I saw this image of who was the mystery buyer. I'll just read it for you. Who was the mystery buyer of the Bethlehem copy of Showcase number 4 for $30,000 and the Bethlehem copy of Amazing Fantasy 15 for $25,000, as reported 2 issues ago? As you can see from the photo, it was none other than key book aficionado Fred Cassian, which is a name I've never heard. I'm sure somebody out there knows him. I may know him. He might be on the CGC forum and just not have his name out there. And there are some people that I've been friends with on the CGC forum for 20 years, and I don't know who they are, which is funny. But some people are very secretive. Other people are going on road shows with their $1 million comics, a la the Impossible Collection. So to each their own. I respect both sides for sure. So I don't know the grade because I don't have the March comic book marketplace from 1994. I'm going to find it, buy it, and I will share in either a short or a short video this listing, right? So when they talk about the Amazing Fantasy 15, which I didn't know existed. And again, it talks about how deep the Bethlehem collection is, because of course it goes into the 50s, and it stretches long enough into the 60s to capture a bunch of keys. And it's got so many keys, and some of them are really high grade. I talked about the Adventure Comics 247. It's the second best copy. So I'm really interested to see what this Amazing Fantasy is. But I'll find it for you. Don't worry. And if somebody's got that issue and wants to take a photo of it and just send it to me, that's great. I'm still going to buy it because, like I said, there's useful information throughout those CBMs. But yeah, if you do have the March, I think it's March 1994, because this is the May issue. So was it monthly at that point? I don't remember. I think it was monthly. Send it in and I will talk about it. I will yap eloquently about the Amazing Fantasy 15 Bethlehem copy. Yeah, no, but if you go to the site, like I said, if you go to the site, it's not listed there. It's that freshly discovered. It was just this week. And yeah, I haven't had a chance to put it on the site yet. So, okay. So Amazing Fantasy 15, Curator copy, 1 of 11 at this grade. Here it is in the original holder. Grader's notes, front cover stain, tape, top spine wear breaks color, bottom spine wear breaks color, spine stress lines break color, bottom interior tear, which of course you can't see, right bottom front cover light crease breaks color. It sounds like a 9 to me. It's a nice looking book and it's fresh. It's got that Curator pop because those books were kept in the Curator. It's right in the name. They were kept in immaculate conditions. So they look great. Even this, which is not a perfect copy in terms of structural grade, but it looks great. Yeah, as I mentioned, this book has sold a lot. I talked about it for the September Heritage signature auction. So far in the CGC era, this book sold for $36,650 October 12th, 2002 at Heritage. Then it sold for $60,000 June 5th, 2007 at an unknown venue. I'm not sure. I could probably dig it up, but it would take a long time, and I don't. It's not that important, but sometimes you could find it. I know like where to look for this sort of information, including on the forums, right? I mean, $60,000 for an Amazing Fantasy 15 would have been a big enough price in 2007 to comment on. So for 9.0, forget it, right? In March of 2017, it sold for $395,000 at Comic Connect. In February of 2021, it sold for $566,000 at Comic Link. And then recently it sold for $540,000 in September at Heritage, which I talked about in that recap video that I thought was actually a decent result, because you got a lot of juice in 2021 from kind of the pandemic. The pandemic hype era. You just got a lot of juice on books. And for the Comic Link price to be only $26,000 over a price that, just recently sold is actually very strong. And if you look at the multiples for other books in that range, 8.5, 9.0, 9.2, it actually kind of is right in line with what it's actually ahead of what a non-Pedigree 9.0 would sell for, which is what I would expect a Pedigree copy to sell for. So hopefully the hot potato game on this book is over, because it's a great book. But, I don't know, it sold a lot. Amazing Fantasy 15, CGC 8.5, Ohio Pedigree. So if you look in GPA, it's listed as having sold for $19,200 on September 12th, 2002. There's no link. I'm not sure where it sold. So this is all I've got on this one. Amazing Fantasy 15, CGC 6.5, Pacific Coast Pedigree. I have nothing on this one. Absolutely nothing. I don't know where I found this book. I don't know who told me about it. It's certainly on the CGC forum, but the search there is very difficult, especially with things like Amazing Fantasy and Pacific Coast. There's a lot of disambiguation you need to do. And the search just, I don't know, it's not very good. And Google is somehow less good at searching the CGC forum than it used to be. It used to be able to just like site search this forum and get results, but I don't know. They moved software at some point, and we lost information or lost access to information. So, bummer. But yeah, I know nothing about this book. I'd love to see it, and I'd definitely love to get the grader's notes on it, because Pacific Coast books are beautiful. This is a 6.5. I wonder why. I wonder if it's a good-looking 6.5. I just like to see it. Okay, so this Amazing Fantasy 15 CGC 3.0 Suscha News Pedigree. I've seen this book. I know I have. This book definitely sold at Comic Connect in June of 2011. It sold for $4,700, $4,750. And I have searched because I know that it exists. I know that it was on the internet. I know that it's not that long ago. So I've searched basically as far as I could reasonably search to find a scan of this book, and I can't find one. So the listing is gone from Comic Connect, and there would like kind of keyword search listings that you could do, like Suscha News Pedigree, that they would like was in Scoop and was in whatever, and those links don't work anymore. And I can't find the book searching for sold items. So I don't know, difficult. It's fine, I'll get over it. But I do want to say kudos to Heritage, who keep almost everything. I have never run across a book that I know Heritage sold that disappeared from their auction listings, their archives. Their archives are amazing, and I really applaud them for that, because it helps me a lot with research. So the one thing that I'm thinking, I wonder how far into the past Comic Connect did those paper catalogs, because obviously an Amazing Fantasy 15 would be in that paper catalog. I have a few. They go back to like 2017. A few here. Again, I might have to go to storage. I should just bring all my comic stuff out of storage, but there's a lot of it, and I don't have any place to put it. So I don't know. Whatever. I'll look. I have to go soon, so I'll go and I'll poke around the boxes and see if I have a paper catalog from 2011. If they even had one, I don't remember. So Okay, we're back to scans. So we have Amazing Fantasy 15, CGC 6.0, Twin Cities copy. Creator's notes. Large crease breaks color is probably enough to get it to a 6.0, right? So I can't. Oh yeah, you can see it. So it is a big crease. It's actually if you look at it, it's a really nice looking book, but it has got, I don't know what that is. Some geometry major can tell me. Trig major can tell me. It's a big old crease and it breaks color. So yeah, that'll knock it down. But it's a really solid structural copy. So. And this book sold for $17,925 on May 5th, 2011, which is, decent amount of money. And then sold again for $20,315 November 15th of 2011, which is like one of those weird flips again. Successful one, at least. So they made a couple bucks. I mean, it was probably a wash, to be honest, because of the seller's fee and buyer's premium, but at least it was a wash, flipping it that quickly. But the interesting thing here is the number of offers that have been made on this book and how high they've gotten up to. 58,200. And I love, it's clearly one person who started in December of 2023. Maybe they got a really big Christmas bonus. And they just kept putting in like an extra $4,000, $5,005, $7,000. So they started at 44,000 and ended up at 58,200. Just throwing offers into the void to see if they could get this book. I mean, it's a really nice book. I don't think I'd ever actually really looked at it as closely as I just have. And it's really nice. I'm just going back to it for a minute. So yeah, it's really nice. It really is the only issue, not the only issue, but the biggest issue is the gigantic crease. So, which is actually, it breaks color, but it's not like awful. So I don't know. Whoever owns this book is clearly not interested in selling it, at least for $58,200. And it's a great book, so hold on to it. Awesome one. Okay, so here we go. The big one. It's no longer the most valuable Silver Age book of all time. It held that distinction twice. But it's still an epic, historic book. I've talked about it before. The anecdote from Jerry Weiss was that when he got this book in hand and opened it, the book was so fresh, the paper made an audible separation noise because it had never been opened or read and was as fresh as the day it was purchased and had been sitting, for 20x years, unread and just waiting for oxygen to hit page 1 for the first time. This book has sold several times, which I'll outline. At the 1989-1990 San Diego Comic-Con. I'm going to nail that down at some point soon, but I haven't done it yet. Sorry. It sold for, and I actually need to nail this down, it sold for more than $10,000. It was the first $10,000 Silver Age book. I don't know how much more than $10,000. I need to get the 90 and 91 guides because I'm sure it's listed in there. Well, I'm not sure, but it should be listed in there. So I need to go to storage. I said it again. I need to go to storage and get the 1990 and 1991 guides to see if it's mentioned in there. I could actually also ask on the forum because I'm old enough to have been at conventions in 1990 and 1989. So I know that there are people that were at San Diego that are active on the forums that may just know. But I haven't done it yet because I'm too busy making videos. But yeah, first $10,000 Silver Age book. And then 1993, June 26th, it sold for $39,100 at Sotheby's. You can see here the estimate was $14,000 to $17,000, so it more than doubled the high estimate. The description is interesting. This issue features the origin and first appearance of Spider-Man by Steve Ditko. This White Mountain copy of Amazing Fantasy 15 first broke the $10,000 figure over 3 years ago at the San Diego convention. It was then acknowledged as the first Silver Age Marvel to sell for more than $10,000. Amazing Fantasy 15 ranks second behind only Hulk #1 is the most difficult early Marvel comic to find in top condition. This is the finest copy with this condition ever offered at auction. So that's has not turned out to be true. So Fantastic Four #1 is much harder to find in very high grade. There are 496s of Amazing Fantasy 15. The census is much higher for Amazing Fantasy 15. And we're obviously not talking about things like Tales to Astonish 27, which is just awful to try and find. But Hulk 1 is, in fact, really difficult of the big mega keys. But that's actually an interesting video to go through the big mega keys and look at the census numbers, because I haven't done it in a while. I've done it just for my own sake. I haven't obviously never did a video on it before, but it is interesting to look at like the raw numbers. You do have to keep in mind that there's been a lot more press about Amazing Fantasy 15, so more copies have come out of the woodwork. It trades hands more often, but there's definitely a lot more high grade Amazing Fantasy 15s than there are Fantastic Four #1s, and certainly Hulk #1s. Hulk #1 is in fact really difficult. So here's a full catalog listing. This one again is a photograph. If you had a magnifying glass, you could actually look at this photo and grade it. Basically, obviously, you couldn't see anything that was internal, the date stamps, or anything like that. But it was a good presentation in the Sotheby's catalogs for the most part. They always left room around the books, even if it wasn't. You couldn't zoom in to microscopic level like you can now. You could get some idea of how nice the book was. Of course, if you were spending $40,000 on it, you should have just been at Sotheby's in New York and had a paddle. Doug from Pedigree Comics sold it just over 10 years later in August of 2004 for $150,000. After that, we had a kind of a sad trombone result. It sold for $126,500, May 20th, 2005 at Heritage. And then the comic listing is gone. Again, I talk about it's like, I love you, Heritage, for like leaving all of your auction results up forever. I really appreciate it. But it had a great result. So 2007, October 16th, it sold for $227,000 at Comic Link and has not surfaced since, which doesn't mean it hasn't sold. Books trade hands without me knowing about it, but that is a great result, and it hasn't come up for auction again on coming on 17, 18 years. So and so front cover marker pen is funny because that's like one of the identifying marks you normally see on White Mountain copies. Small crease breaks color, spine chip out, top spine wear, bottom spine wear, small light spine stress lines, top interior address, date, name stamp. Kind of standard. It's a really solid book. One of the most famous books in the hobby. And historic book. And there it is again. And so with that, this video is over. It's been great to dive through Amazing Fantasy 15. I know people love Amazing Fantasy 15. As always, like and subscribe. As always, if you have any information about any of the books here that I missed, if I screwed up, please add some comments. I love to read them. I love to interact with you guys. I'll see you next week for my first Comic Link preview video, which I've been working on as well. I've been busy over the holidays. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.